Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. My throat hurts from being fumed, so I'm going to make this brief here. This video is about the issue of maturity. The trickle-down immaturity that we're seeing in America in 2026 is extremely problematic. So let me help you understand something. Let me connect martial arts to life for you. Because martial arts are life paths. What makes somebody good at martial arts is that they're good at understanding the fundamentals of martial arts and perfecting them. Say someone does a high-flying spinning kick, we'll say, and someone else does a straight punch or a jab that's masterfully executed, and he strikes them in the temple while the person's in the air. Okay? And the person doing the high-flying kick after being struck in the temple falls down and dies. That is an example of the mastery of the fundamentals far surpassing people trying to look good, put on a show, trying to do cute moves, what have you. And so it is in life. People go off on a tangent. They try to be rock stars. They try to be the nerd of the year. They try to be this. They try to be that. And they miss out on the fundamentals. A key fundamental principle of martial arts in life is maturity. So I have 3 quick points for you here. 1, it is extremely immature for the governing class to pretend that they are worthy to lead, especially as they are managing things so poorly. That is extremely immature. They're not just wrong, they're being childish, right? Baby Lion, Rothschild, child, Nicole Kidman, kid, hidden in plain view. They are being childish. The word Bible is a play on words for baby L. The vowels are interchangeable. Vowel L. El meaning Lord, El the Canaanite deity, what have you. That's a story for another day, but let's focus on this here. So what would be mature for them to do? To admit that they're not worthy to lead, they've done a bad job, their families have done a bad job, the groups that are producing them have done a bad job. They've done such a horrible, horrible job. I always remind people that 9 million people are starving to death and dying of hunger-related issues every year. 9 million. And there's all kinds of other problems. Rape, drug overdoses, poorly managed immigration systems, and on and on and on and on. They've done a horrible job and has definitively shown us that they're unworthy to lead. It's the parable of the bags of gold, the parable of the 10 minas, the parable of the wedding banquet, the parable of the tenants. It's this recurring theme in the Bible, for example, where it says if you haven't scrambled to do God's work, if you weren't prudent, if you didn't do your due diligence, if you weren't mature enough to masterfully move in life, why are you trying to lead? That is very foolish and contemptible of them. Point number 2, ver and virtue means man. The word means is a play on words for see man with 1 E instead of 2, right? The word man is scrambled in the word means. Ver and virtue means man, and men address serious issues. Men don't act like children. They don't try to put their race above everyone else while the world is suffering. They don't try to make everyone gay or a nerd or this or that or their particular type of Christian while everyone else is suffering. Okay, they focus on virtue. Universal pinpoint and moral precision. Not trying to prove that the Bible is magically infallible or trying to prove this, that, but they actually focus on what is universally right. Luke 12:57, why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? Okay, Christ says that at a time when there is no New Testament. Say, why don't you judge for yourselves? The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not argue that the Bible is infallible, not argue Scripture, but to masterfully move within the boundaries of universal pinpoint and moral precision. The Lord is known and exalted by his acts of justice. Psalm 9 and Isaiah 5. Therefore, God's spirit and ways are universally righteous and just. Not something that you need to have a vision, have a dream, a literal dream to understand, something that you inherently understand and that you need to refine within yourself by coming into the divine order and not cheating anyone out of their right to lead. In Matthew 19, when Christ is asked, how do you get to heaven? He says you have to do things that are universally right? Don't rob people. Don't defraud them. Don't steal. Don't kill for no reason. Don't commit adultery. Don't worship false ideas. Live in the boundaries of universal pinpoint and moral precision. God is the God of universal pinpoint and moral precision. Not wordplay games, not so-called visions from elite people who are approved by the government. You know, when I elite, I mean rich worms, privileged worms, but universal pinpoint and moral precision. Point number 3. A huge part of the problem is that there are people in nice suits who go to nice restaurants that benefit from the sabotage of the world, in a sense, that is, right? Because obviously it's bad for them, but you know what I mean. Many of them are in social clubs that are trying to create a benefit from the contrast with the disorganized effect. I call the effect the benefit, excuse me, I call the effect benefit from the contrast with the disorganized effect. So, quote unquote, benefit from the contrast with the disorganized, end quote, effect. They like to call each other well-bred and well-cultured while everyone suffers. Think about American history. Bunch of slave masters, you know, a lot of them used to have wigs on, what have you. And they'd say, yes, we are well-bred. We're from good stock. And they're unfortunately lesser stock. And then we have to tell them what to do. And they said things like the black man needs the white man's guidance. They said it about the black man, the Asian man, the Native American, the poor white man, what have you. And they were never worthy to lead. Hundreds of years of these idiots, going all the way back to Rome and before that. Just complete fools, narcissists, hedonists, pretentious, pompous fools. And they insisted on being in charge. And they don't have any fruits of doing a good job. I didn't intend to make this video this long, so let me end it by saying this. Human beings have been here for over 300,000 years, 400,000 years, depending on what you define as a human being. Hundreds of thousands of years. If you start inventing cars and planes and spaceships, so what? People have been here, including white people and their ancestors, including Jewish people and their ancestors, and everybody and their ancestors, for hundreds of thousands of years. They've been in their respective continents for tens of thousands of years. So after all that time, you're like, look, I have a car, so what? Should we think you're brilliant because you can tie your shoes too? All those people working on science around the clock, so to speak, and what little you have invented, you're so proud of, and you think it makes you ideal or something. When science is not even the highest form of wisdom. From the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom, not the mouth of the scientist. The scientist may or may not be righteous. It is from the mouth of the righteous, from the actions, from the being of the righteous. When the righteous are in God's hands, that's when they're righteous. When the righteous are in the divine order obeying God, righteousness is greater than science because wisdom is greater than mere book knowledge. And because righteousness comes from God. God is not said to be all good, all scientist, and all powerful, but all good, all knowing in terms of being wise and all powerful. Knowing what it's like to be wise, knowing what it's like to walk in the way of righteousness along the path of justice. That's where wisdom travels. So let's look at James here. James 1, we're just going to read verses 2 through 4 and we'll end it there. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that testing of your faith produces perseverance. Because you know that testing of your faith produces perseverance. Now, are people supposed to persecute me? No. Life by itself tests your faith. If you are the master martial arts, or if you were the master martial arts, and you were going to design society in a way that tests people's faith and produces a bunch of fruit for God, would you design it the way they have? No. Because people are going on the broad path to destruction. The way they designed it might be consistent with Scripture, but Scripture is just written by people. They didn't design it in a way that they can justify. Not even close. They design it in a way that's extremely evil and selfish. But nonetheless, The testing of your faith produces perseverance. So when you see these people shrinking to fit, conforming, chasing money, just trying to feed their family instead of trying to do God's work, it's very pathetic, very evil, and they're raising their children to be evil. So again, let's start from verse 2 again. Consider it joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, right? You're not supposed to shrink to fit. You're not supposed to flee from those trials. When someone wants to get in shape, should they flee from working out? When someone wants to take care of their family, should they flee from going to work? When someone wants to truly take care of their family to the truest sense, should they flee from putting their family in danger for the sake of their souls? No, not even close. Consider it joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So what happens when you're not mature? You're lacking something. We have this governing class that's immature. They're lacking something. And that something is huge. Virtue means man. They're not virtuous. They're not a man. If they're male, they're not mature, whether they're male or female. There's some kind of governing class groupie. What can they say? It's because they're afraid that their faith will be tested when they do the right thing, or that their perseverance will be tested, their life principles as applied by them, the principles of life and their philosophy will be tested if they do what's right. So they shrink to fit. Or they argue, well, because you're stumbling on your words, we're not going to do the right thing. You think you should be a leader when your argument is that the top martial artist ever possible is persecuted and therefore he's stumbling on his words, so therefore you're not going to do the right thing. You think that is the type of thinking that a true leader has. It's pathetic, right? You should persevere in universal pinpoint and moral precision. They never lived a moment in universal pinpoint and moral precision. Not a moment. So why should they lead? Perseverance didn't even start in them. They didn't persevere for universal pinpoint and moral precision. It didn't start, therefore it didn't finish. Therefore they're not mature. And therefore they're lacking a great many things. Many, 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 many things.